Hi there. In this video, I'm going to make a background for a social media page such as Twitter. So I've already got Bridge open. I'm just going to double click on beachcamp.jpg, and that opens in Photoshop. I'm going to quickly save it as a TIFF. So I'll choose File, Save As. I'll pick up TIFF. And I'm going to call it socialbackground.tiff. And I'll choose Save. And I'll use the same settings that we previously used, basically just zip there. And OK. Now, in order to manipulate this layer here, you need to rename it. So I'm just going to double click on in the Layers panel. If you don't presently have your Layers panel available, you can find it under Window Layers. I'm going to double click on Background. I'm going to call that Beach. And I'm going to choose OK. So the next thing I'm going to do is crop my image. So I'll choose my crop tool here. And sorry, I'm going to drag from the top left. And I want to put that line first from the bottom, right about at the top of the chairs for those two folks there, and I'm going to center them in the first column here. So the width, so they have as much space on either side of them, and that's a pretty good crop for me. So I'm going to basically remove some of the sky and a little bit of the cliff there. Once you're happy with your crop, press Enter. Now I want to soften the edges of this image, and I want to fade to the background color of the website that I'll be placing this background on. So I'm going to add a new layer. So it's this little option here, sorry, this one here. Click on that, and I want a solid color. And my solid color is very specific. It's 85 B2C7. Make sure only web colors is not selected, otherwise you're limited to 256 colors, and choose OK. Now I want that, right now it's obscuring the image, so if I just drag that layer down below the image, notice I get a little blue bar there, indicates that that's where the layer will be in the stacking order once I let go of the mouse. And the next thing I want to do is soften the edges of this photo so that they reveal this background layer. So I'm just going to hit Escape to remove my dotted lines there. I'm going to, on the beach layer, I'm going to select the beach layer. Make sure you have the beach layer selected. I'm going to click on my Add Layer Mask. I'm going to choose my gradient tool. Now the way masks work is you draw on a mask with black, white, or gray. Black will be transparent, white will be opaque, gray will be somewhat opaque and transparent. So with that gradient tool selected, I'm going to pick up Basics and Foreground to Background. Sorry, foreground to background. My foreground is presently black, so that will be transparent. I want that to be white, so I'm going to swap that. Make sure you have the linear gradient. I want a nice horizontal edge, not a round one. Now with white as a foreground, black as a background, foreground to background selected here, linear, where I start my drag will be 100% opaque, where I let go of the mouse will be 100% transparent. So I want to soften that edge, so I'm going to let go of the mouse just before that edge. I'm going to start dragging in material that I want to keep. So maybe I want some of that tree there. So I'm just going to click and drag. Now Shift will constrain that to be vertical. I want the line to be perfectly vertical. So I hold down Shift, and now it constrains it to 45-degree angles. Let go of the mouse. There we go. Now I want to add one on the bottom, but if I do this here again on the bottom, you'll notice it replaces my previous mask. So I'll just edit undo that. So in order to do this, to add to this new mask to this mask, I have to change my color somewhat. I'm going to go to foreground to transparent. And I'm going to swap my colors. So basically I'll be dragging in. Where I start the drag will be transparent. Where I let go of the mouse will be opaque. So I hold down Shift and I'll do the same thing. And there we go. We have a nice soft edge. If you want to try again, you can give that another shot. Seems like it's a little transparent at the bottom there. That is some of the material is showing through. So now what I want to do is resize this image. It's a little large. So if I go to Image, Image Size, and I want it to be 14. Make sure you choose pixels here. I want this to be 1440. So I believe that's the Twitter, or that's your average screen size. Notice I have this constrained, so it automatically calculates the height. You don't have to worry about that. I'm using resample and bicubic sharper. Make sure you choose that setting. And I choose OK. Now to resize this to fit my work area here, I can double click on my hand tool. It looks a little notchy because it's not showing it at full resolution. If you want to see what it actually will look like, you can double click on the magnifying glass. You see it's very, very clear. When I zoom out, it's a little bit jagged. All right, so we have it cropped, resized, and the edges are softened. The next thing I want to do is add an area for the actual Twitter content. So I'm going to draw a rectangle for that. So I'm going to choose my rectangle tool. It's this little button here. If you don't have it presently selected, you can get it from that list by mousing down on the tool. And I want this rectangle to be shape. I want it to be white, no stroke, and I'll take care of the rest of it later. So I'm just going to arbitrarily draw a rectangle on the image like that. Now I want to resize this thing, so I'm going to make it 865 by 900. And I'm going to align it to the canvas, center, and top edge. So now I have an area that my content will occupy. It's a little brash right now, so I want to see some of the background. So with that rectangle layer selected, I'm just going to change the opacity over here on the layers to 30. So I double click and I press enter 30, or you can drag that slider to get somewhere close to 30. Doesn't matter if it's exactly 30. I'm going to enter 30 and enter. And select, deselect. Or if you just choose another layer, there we go. So that's a little portion for the text where the image is a bit washed out, so we don't have to worry about being able to read stuff over top. All right, so now I'm going to add the logo to this document. So we placed a Photoshop file or a bitmap into Illustrator. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to grab an Illustrator file and place it in Photoshop. So I'll choose File and Place Embedded. And I'm going to grab Pluralist logo. And I don't need to do anything with this dialog. I'm going to choose OK. And I'm just going to drag that to the top left corner. And then I'm going to resize it. You can just click and drag until the width is around 240. Once you're happy with the size and the position, you can press enter. So the last couple of things I have to do is just basically tweak the position of some of the elements in the photograph as well as add some text. I'll add the text first. So I'm going to click on my text tool or type tool, and I'm just going to draw a little box for the text. basically centered below my pluralist text and background, something like that. It pops in some placeholder text. I'm going to type in outdoor gear. I'm going to press enter on my keyboard. There we go. Enter, and I'll add some more. Now I want to change all of this text to white. So I can choose only web colors here, and this is white here. And OK. And I'll make it 22 points. And Myriad Pro is good. I'm going to make this line slightly smaller so it fits all on one line. So I'm going to see what 20 looks like. There we go. This line I'm going to make, if you click on your little additional font options button here, I'm going to make that uppercase. I'm going to make it bold. This line, this is a setting that I modified, but you'll see if I go to the paragraph, I can click here or click on paragraph, either one. I've got 10 points in the add space before paragraph field there. All of the text is centered, and I think we're all set there for the text. So the last thing I'm going to do is just move these folks over here just so they're centered underneath all of this stuff here. So I want to move them about there. So we can do that with this tool here, which is the Content Aware Move tool. It tells you a little bit about it there. So I'm going to make a very loose selection using my lasso tool, and then I'm going to move using this tool. This is hidden below the Band-Aid, so you might see one of these in front of it instead. So if you don't see that, mouse down and pick up Content Aware Move tool, and then you'll see it. First of all, I'm going to select this. So I'm going to make sure I have my beach layer selected. I'm going to click on my lasso tool. Always make sure you have anti-alias chosen. That softens the edge of your selection. And I'm just going to draw a selection around these people like that. If you need to add to your selection, you can hold down Shift. So if I wanted to add some more material, make sure you draw with loops like that. If you want to remove anything from your selection, you hold down Alt and draw loops. It's like taking bites out of it. And now I grab my Content Aware Move tool, and I just move those folks over. You don't see what's happening until you basically accept the move. So I'll put them about there. Looks good to me. Now when I press enter on my keyboard, it'll move those folks. You'll see that there's no copy of them. And when I hit select, deselect, you see it looks pretty good. You can hardly tell that they were in a different position before. So that's basically the entire layout. The last thing I have to do is convert it from a TIFF, which is not understood by web browsers, to a format that is understood. So specifically a JPEG. And generally what I use is a JPEG with high quality of usually around 80, nothing less than 80. You'll see that Photoshop's idea of high quality is 60, but I like to crank it up to 80. Also, you can use TIFF if you don't know what your background color is going to be, and then that'll fade that to transparent. That requires a little bit more work though, so I'm just going to export to a JPEG for now. You'll get a better idea of what this looks like if you double click on your magnifying glass and zooms out to 100%. You'll see it's nice and smooth, not too jaggedy. these folks look like they've always been there. And I'll choose File, Export, and I'm using Save for Web. And for the preset, I'm going to pick up Jpeg High, and I'm going to crank that quality up to 80 or something. I never use anything less than 80. It shows you what the file is going to look like in the optimized panel, but if you want to compare it to the original, you can use 2-up. And I can't see much of a difference. They both look pretty good to me. That's 78 quality. That's the original. Once you're happy with what you've done, you can hit Save. And I'll put it in the usual spot. And I'm going to call it Social Background JPEG. And save. Now you can actually see it, what it'll look like in a web browser. I'm just going to open up my file browser, not Bridge, but my file browser. I'm going to go to my documents, Adobe Creative Cloud, that is, lesson 1. There it is there. If I right-click that and choose Open With and use your browser, you can see what it looks like in your browser. So that's what mine looks like in Chrome. Looks pretty good. All right, well, that's a quick look at Photoshop. We'll look at it in more depth in the future. So basically we looked at using layers, using shapes, using masks, the type tool, placing images from Illustrator, selecting, moving, and a few other things. Thanks so much for watching.